Welcome back. Welcome back. Your man Dominic K in here, of course, the Dominic K Show on firetelevision.com. A lot to get into, a lot that I want to talk about. Marilyn Mosby, Baltimore City's state's attorney, has been in the news a lot lately. We're going to get into that. Governor Hogan of Maryland has made more money while governor than anyone in the history of Maryland. We're going to talk about that as well as voting, 5G, and a whole lot more. So, Marilyn Mosby, a lot of you in Baltimore know her. She is the state's attorney. She has been targeted. And why is that? Why has Marilyn Mosby been targeted? She is under a federal indictment. Attorney A. Scott Bolden, who is representing Marilyn Mosby, she faces 4 felony charges. They want to get this trial done and over with. They said that they are innocent. She is in the midst of a re-election that takes place in June, primary in Baltimore. So how fast is this court going to move? How fast can this court move? This is a high-profile case. As I said, she has been very visible, proclaiming her innocence. Her attorney has been visible. This is rare. Very rare for most defendants under federal indictment. So why is she under federal indictment? Why is the top prosecutor in Baltimore City under federal indictment? They said it's perjury and making false loan applications. So let's look deeper into this. Why? Okay. And so these alleged false statements, of course, according to her attorney, she did nothing wrong. Did she take city money? No, she didn't take city money. Did she take state money? No, she didn't take state money. It's not taxpayers' money. None of that. Okay. What she did is take a COVID-19 hardship withdrawal from her retirement account and invested in 2 homes in Florida. So her attorney, A. Scott Bolden, claims that Marilyn Mosby's Mahogany Elite travel businesses were impacted by COVID. Now, a lot of conservative media outlets want to point out that previously Mosby stated that she had not made a dime from her businesses. So, opponents of Miss Mosby try to say, she had a business. She said that it wasn't making any money. So, what they fail to understand and they fail to realize is that this is not public money. This is from her retirement money. So yes, there are rules and regulations to when you can withdraw funds and what you can use those funds for and all of that. Her attorney says that she is innocent. Said that Marilyn Mosby consulted professionals and that she qualifies on one of those under the stature. So he's saying that she didn't just do this nilly-willy free, she did this under the advisement of professionals. She withdrew from her 401k. All right. Have any of you done that before? Of course you have. Now, what's interesting about this is that the coronavirus relief violations are largely untested in federal court. This hasn't been done before. Now, this is going to probably provide a better line of defense than Miss Mosby's team would see in other areas of the law, other areas where there have actually been prosecutions. There have not been prosecutions because people or someone did this act. So this is going to set a precedent, right? And I wonder how much financial hardship would she have to establish, even if she lost $1? Now, of course, she lost more than $1 during the COVID-19 pandemic. But if she only lost $1, right, would that be enough to establish financial hardship? In the press conference that her supporters had earlier this week, Attorney A. Scott Bolden asked, viewers, raise your hand if you have not been impacted by COVID-19. Of course, no one raised their hand because every business has been impacted by COVID-19, right? And so what is so strange, it's not really strange, but what has really gotten under my skin is that the conservative media, Fox 45 in Baltimore, Baltimore Brew, Baltimore Sun, others, conservative media have consistently gone after Marilyn Mosby. And why? Why? Very easy. It's very easy to point out why. The reason that they have attacked her, the reason they have targeted Marilyn Mosby is because she pushed back against the establishment in Baltimore. Look, you don't understand what I'm saying? Right? Marilyn Mosby pushed back against corrupt police officers. You remember Freddie Gray? She was trying to hold those officers responsible, hold them accountable for the murder of Freddie Gray. And you had some folks in this city say, who does she think she is? We got to get this black girl in line. That's what they thought, right? That's what they thought. And so she didn't buckle under pressure from the police department. She didn't buckle under pressure of the establishment, of the FOP, of the dark money that is in politics. She didn't buckle under those pressures. So because she didn't buckle under those pressures, because she ran afoul to the establishment, they had to take her out. So they thought. So you have these conservative outlets. You have the Baltimore Brew. You have Fox 45. You have the Baltimore Sun. You have others, conservatives, opponents of hers. Start investigating her, right? Who does this black woman think she is, challenging the establishment in Baltimore? So you've had this consistent history. We have many examples of these same people going after other black politicians in Baltimore. And what is so alarming is that we're talking about female politicians. The cornerstone of the Democratic Party, black women, right? And for too long, we've just sat back and watched this happen. Now, I know what some of you are going to say. They did something wrong. And they have to be held accountable. And that's fine. You can say that. But this has to be relative. This has to be across the board, right? We can't just only target black women in power who are progressive and trying to make a difference. We can't only target them. We're going to get into Governor Hogan and all of his businesses. And we're going to get into Governor Hogan and the fact that he's made more money while governor than anyone in the history of Maryland. We're going to get into him in a minute. And then I'm going to talk about fairness. I'm going to talk about equal under the law. I'm going to talk about the big problem that we have in this country. We're going to talk about that. So anyway, Marilyn Mosby and her attorney, A. Scott Bolden, they are pushing for a trial in 70 days. They're pushing for a trial in 70 days. Now, you may say that's fast. What? Push for a trial in 70 days? The reason why they're pushing for the trial so quickly is because they do not want this, what they call bogus set of charges, to affect the political outcome of this race. Now, this is something that we've seen done. It happened to Hillary Clinton, where just before an election, bring up some charges, some shady stuff, sounding stuff to try to affect the election. They wanted to get this done 5 months before the primary in Baltimore because they're trying to affect the outcome of the election. They don't want her in office. Why don't they want her in office? They don't want her in office because she has challenged the establishment. Who does she think she is? That's what this is about. She's made some enemies. She has. But no progressive politician is going to be without enemies of the establishment. The stat quo, the way things have been. She's progressive. She's definitely black. So she's definitely has some enemies because she's not doing the get along, go along thing. Now, black politicians in Baltimore that do the get along, go along thing, they're fine. They don't mess with them. Doesn't matter what they do or with their 401k. The go along, get along ones. Doesn't matter if they prosecute innocent black people, as long as they don't prosecute any police. Don't prosecute any guilty police. Keep prosecuting innocent black people, then you're good. All right? She isn't the first black politician that they've come after. The establishment I'm talking about. The conservative media that wants to bring down, and as you can see, they want to bring down the black female politician in Baltimore. You even had the former president talking greasy, talking about she should be prosecuted. I mean, he was talking about lock everybody up. Anybody, you didn't vote for me, lock everybody up, right? But he specifically called her out, disrespected Elijah Cummings. You remember that. Disrespected Baltimore in general. You remember this. I'm not making this stuff up. So this really started under the Trump administration, and it's just coming. They've still been looking at stuff. Now, speaking of Trump, you want to talk about lying on applications? You want to talk about misrepresenting something when you're trying to do applications, homes and property and stuff. The former president, I mean, they're talking about $90,000 with Marilyn Mosby. Donald Trump, the nerve of Donald Trump to even open his mouth about something like this, about perjury, about making false statements on mortgage applications. Donald Trump, are you kidding me? So if we're having this purge of politicians who have lied on mortgage applications, you got to start at the top. You got to start with him, right? Oh, no. You ain't worried about that. You want to talk about taxes? What about his taxes? No, you don't want to talk about that, right? He's the white guy, so nothing applies to him. My thing is fairness under the law. Fairness under the law. That's what we're talking about. Now, she says that she's innocent. They say that this is bogus, her supporters. Now, speaking of her supporters, there was a press conference that they had, and it was different than what I've normally seen. I liked it though, and I understand that some people didn't like it. Of course, opponents didn't like it because the presentation was clear and obvious. D Chase, shout out to D Chase. Derek Chase opened the press conference up, and what he did was take folks on a history lesson. Some people don't like history. Some people don't like to hear things that happen. So they drew a connection and started talking about some of the obvious things. And they did this on Martin Luther King Day. There was a lot of symbolism there, and that was done for a reason. Of course, Derek Chase is not the attorney. He is an activist, and he's a community activist. And, I'm glad that he is involved with this, and all of the speakers that spoke at the press conference did a great job. They gave a different perspective, their relationship with Marilyn Mosby, and talked about the fight. Because this is a fight. This is a fight. This is a fight against the establishment and the people. Now, some people are part of the establishment. Some people are pawns of the establishment. And some people need to be awakened to what is happening. It should be clear and obvious. It should be clear and obvious. But sometimes these things have to be spelled out. So when I've talked about Marilyn Mosby, no one is without criticism, right? What I thought that she's needed to do a better job at is conveying the reasons that she's made some of the moves that she's made. But she's a prosecutor, right? She's not a commentator. I'm a commentator, right? That's not her forte. Right? Most politicians aren't a talk show host, right? So they may not have the level of communication that I may want, right? But I saw what she was trying to do. And Derek Chase, D Chase, laid it out during the press conference when he was talking about the mass incarceration of black people for, minor weed offenses and small amounts of drugs. Weed that we're talking about now, you have a lot of people making a big money off stuff that people are in jail for. That's changing the status quo, changing what has been done. So you have this, and we have Baltimore this was also laid out in the press conference. The same amount of murders now that we had 50 years ago. And you have many people trying to blame one or two politicians when this problem, this tragedy, existed before them. This is a systemic thing, part of the establishment. You put a Republican or a Democrat in Baltimore City as the mayor right now, and we are still going to have the same amount of murders that we have until we change the culture. It's bigger than who's sitting in City Hall. That's not what is affecting the murder rate. But you have a lot of politicians who people make scapegoats. Oh, Brandon Scott, is his fault that the murder rate is what it is. The police chief, the prosecutor, all of these things. So we have a lot of things that are confusing the real issues. And then nothing ever changes. Some people don't like politics because they don't see anything getting done. We're going to talk about some of the gridlock in D.C. We're going to get into that a little bit later with regards to voting rights and the such. But I'm talking about Marilyn Mosby and the fact that she was targeted for a reason. She was targeted for a reason. Now, the 70-day timeline that they're trying to get this trial done, Is it possible? It's not unheard of. Is it unusual? Yes, it is unusual. Usually, federal cases take a lot longer to go to trial than 70 days. Attorney Mosby has a whole lot to lose, and it seems to benefit her to get this trial case done and a final resolution made as quickly as possible. It's to her benefit. The potential impact of the pandemic on the trial date, that is something that we have to take into account. It's ironic that COVID-19, which she claimed as a hardship, which pointed her to withdraw from her retirement, could impact the trial itself. COVID-19 was the reason for the withdrawal, and that could push the trial back. So the jury for this trial will likely not be made up solely of constituents from Baltimore City. That's something that is a possibility. If the case were a state case brought into the circuit court for Baltimore City, then the jurors would be pulled from the city of Baltimore. But because it's a federal case, the jurors come from all over the state. And that definitely factors into the way you try a case. Her initial court appearance has not been set, but she has been aggressive with getting out there and, battling the court of public opinion. The public opinion is important because, one, this is a public official and she is running for re-election. It is ironic. 41 years old. She has denied the charges. She went to a church and, of course, asked for prayers. She said that she is innocent on the charges levied against her. She told the churchgoers, I did nothing wrong. I did nothing wrong. So what's going to happen here? Do you stand with Marilyn Mosby? Let me know your thoughts in the comment section. Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, TikTok, at The Diamond K Show, at onfire_television on social media. She used her retirement funds. That's the best that they got. That's all that they could come up with. Now, if convicted, she's facing some time, but I don't think this is about that. I think this is about besmirching her name, getting her out of office. I think that that's what this is about. And can she survive this? It is definitely possible. She's taking on a different stance than a lot of people would do. She is. You frequently hear me talk about conservative media, and I'm going to talk about them for a minute. Conservative media ignores what these white conservative politicians do. And we're going to talk about Larry Hogan in a minute. But the Fox 45s, the Baltimore Brews, the Baltimore Sun, they gloss over when a white politician does something much worse than anything they're accusing Marilyn Mosby of, much worse than anything that they accuse Catherine Pugh of, much worse than any of those things. But they get off on taking down black politicians. They get off on it. The conservative media. That's why it's so important for us, people of color, to have our media. It is important. I'm going to talk about Larry Hogan in a minute and how he has made more money while governor than anybody else in the history of the state of Maryland. I'm going to talk about him in a minute because clearly my conservative counterparts, the people over at Fox News, the people at the Baltimore Brew, the people at the Baltimore Sun, and other places, other radio personalities, et cetera, they miss, sometimes they miss it when it's a white politician. But when it's a black politician, it doesn't matter what it is, they want to throw them under the bus. We have got to start supporting our black politicians. They're just picking them off one by one by one by one. I thought one of the most powerful things that was said during the press conference was it could be you next. Next time it could be you. All these politicians who are black, who see it happening, but don't say anything, you could be next. Right? And you're going to want people to support you. Whether or not you agree with everything that the prosecutor has done. And let's keep in mind, she's not a saint. She is a prosecutor, right? She is somebody who brings cases against folks who commit crimes, right? She ain't no saint from that standpoint. She's someone who holds people accountable, right? But she's being targeted because she's attempted to hold people accountable that the establishment says they're above the law. They're out of reach. You can't hold them accountable. You can only hold these people accountable. That's what this is about. And I don't want that to be lost. That is why she is being targeted. That is why. So I am anxious to see how this unfolds. I am excited because this is an opportunity for unity. Let me say that again. This is the opportunity for unity, and that's what we need. Black and brown communities, we need unity. We can't, the days of us begging politicians to do stuff, that's out of here. We need to be unified on a lot of different things. I'm going to get into all of that. I'm going to do this. You listen to the Don McKay Show, of course, on Fire Television, on firetelevision.com. Your man Don McKay in here. Do this, take a quick break, and we're going to come back. And I'm going to talk about Larry Hogan and how much money he has made and how many businesses he's run and how he has used his office to fatten his pockets, and how conservative media, Fox 45 and all of their exposés, they don't talk about that. We're going to get into that after this break. You're listening to the Don McKay Show on firetelevision.com. Welcome back. You man, Don McKay in here. Of course, the Don McKay Show sponsored by Tasty Moscato. If you could pour sexy into a glass, this would be it. This smooth, seductive Moscato wine blended with vanilla takes your palate to a whole nother level of taste me. Unlike most, Tasty Moscato can be deliciously paired with a variety of meats, cheeses, veggies, as well as desserts. It's the sweet taste of luxury that you've been craving. It is Tasty Moscato, and you can visit them on social media, Tasty Moscato. Now, I was talking about Marilyn Mosby, Attorney Mosby, and what the conservative media, the establishment, the folks that are angry at her for having the audacity to hold police officers accountable for their crimes. How dare she? And, I could not, I had to, take a break first before we get into this Governor Larry Hogan thing. Look at some of these comments first. Let's see what we got here. All right, so Vera Mickey says, but Hillary was no saint at all. She was not for black folks. I wouldn't compare her with Mosby. Now, Vera, the reason why I brought up Hillary, not to try to say that the two women are the same. I was talking about the tactics that were used to take them down and to discredit them before an election. Now, yes, Hillary is not the same type of politician, but bringing charges or bringing, making some announcement of some, alleged crime right before an election, that's what I'm talking about. Dirty tricks. That's what I'm talking about. But thank you, Vera, for that. And, respond to me if you have, a rebuttal to that. Also, she says Fox 45 are bullies. Absolutely. I agree with that 100%. They are bullies and they have to be called out on their stuff. Fox 45 has to be called out on their stuff. All right. And so I'm just looking at this. I wouldn't blame this on Trump, and I'm not a Trump supporter. Now, when I said this, now, mentioning Trump, because he's such a crybaby, he has people, whenever you mention him, you're blaming Trump. No, I'm not blaming Trump per se. What I'm saying is stating the obvious. All of this hoopla started when he was president, and he's called out and said different things. Just like Kaepernick, Trump said stuff. I mean, he interjects himself in stuff. And then when he is called out for interjecting and stuff, you can't go by and say, oh, you blaming Trump. No, he ran his mouth. That's why I said it, because he ran his mouth. So tell your boy stop running his mouth. And Lil John from East Baltimore says, hell yeah, I stand with her. Shout out to you, Lil John from East Baltimore. Let me tell you the crazy thing about Baltimore. So a lot of people don't know this. Baltimore is, they say it's a small place. It's funny though, because so you have East and West Baltimore, not far apart, but they are so different. So I grew up in West Baltimore, and we didn't go on the east side like that. Like, we did not go on the east side like that. And I have folks that I know that grew up in East Baltimore that don't go on the west side like that, don't like to go on the west side like that, get lost on the west side. It's a super funny thing. And I'm sure that many cities are like that. But Baltimore, East and West, totally different. Now, I say this, totally different. And we'll talk about each other. Oh, that's some east side stuff. Well, that's some west side stuff. Out of town, though, in other cities, one Baltimore, okay? You don't matter where you're from east or where you're from west. When you're out of town, it's just Baltimore. But in town, dissect it up into little groups. All right, we're going to keep this thing moving. Okay, so I'm All Natural said, so if black politicians commit crimes, it's supposed to not be talked about. My whole thing is don't do it. Now, I feel you on that. And that's a fair statement, and I don't want it to come out like that's what I'm saying. What I'm saying is this: don't only call out the black politicians. Now, if you can call somebody else that did something wrong, right, but don't only call out them, right? So let's say you got a son and you got a daughter, right? Daughter does stuff wrong, son does stuff wrong, but the only time that anybody ever gets in trouble is the son, right? Only the son gets in trouble. Son gets punished. Son gets his, computer taken away. Son gets his cell phone taken away. The girl, she does whatever. She had little niggas in the house. She be on the phone late. She be sneaking out the window. You don't say nothing, but you only say something to the son. That's a problem, right? That's a problem. And that's what I'm talking about. I'm talking about, you want to call people out when you do something wrong, we should do that. But let's do that across the board, right? Let's do that across the board. And that's not what happens. That's not what happens. That's all I'm saying. Let's do this across the board and let's hold folks accountable. Now, speaking of accountability, speaking of folks doing stuff wrong, there's this guy, Maryland's governor, Larry Hogan. Okay. And I have talked about him. For some reason, he was able to fool a lot of people in the city of Baltimore, right? For years, several years, the never Trump Republicans have tried to get Larry Hogan to run for president. Larry Hogan can't be president, and he knows it, and he don't want to be president. Not really, right? He's making too much money being a governor, even though that time's almost up. Thank goodness. But anyway, he's a popular governor, one of the most popular in America. He's widely viewed as a moderate, but if you dig deeper, and you don't have to dig that deep, right? Hogan tries to act like he doesn't have anything in common with Donald Trump, but they actually have a lot in common. Both of them are real estate executives. Both of them have refused to relinquish their private businesses while in office. And just like Donald Trump maintained ownership of the Trump Organization while he was president, Larry Hogan maintained ownership of Hogan, which is a multi-purpose real estate brokerage firm, when he became governor. Now, many of you don't even know that. You know why? Because the media in Baltimore doesn't talk about it. You know why they don't talk about it? Because he's not a black politician. This is what I was talking about earlier. Now, of course, we know all about Marilyn Mosby's business, the business that she started last year, 2020, right? We know all about that. Ain't made no money. The business ain't made no money. We know all about that because she's a black politician. But the white boy, Larry Hogan, he has this business that he had, and he didn't relinquish anything before he became governor and still maintain ownership of it after he became governor. So you may be sitting there saying, okay, so what? No, there's something to that. Why did he want to maintain ownership? Because he wanted to do things as governor to benefit the company. Oh, that's against the law. Talking about a whole lot more money than the $90,000 that Marilyn Mosby withdrew from her retirement because of COVID-19. But they don't want to talk about that one. Why? Because this is some white boy. That's why, right? So anyway, Hogan maintained ownership when he became governor. Now, Donald Trump and Hogan have left close family members in charge of their businesses. Trump left his children in charge. Hogan left his brother, Timothy, in charge. And both created arrangements that allowed them to be apprised on the company's dealings, on what the companies were making. In other words, they have set up situations in which they can use their powerful government positions to increase their private profits. Oh, if a black politician did that, oh my, they'd bring out the firing squad. But of course, you have some folks that don't even want to talk about that. You got some black people say, I don't care what he did. I'm talking about what she did. Yeah, you got some folks like that. And we have to re-educate those people. We have to re-educate them because they have a certain mentality that was passed down to them. I don't want to talk about what Larry Hogan doing. I like Larry Hogan. Right? You got some folks that's like that. We got to re-educate them. They don't understand. So as governor, one of Hogan's signature policies has been to expand state spending on roads, highways, bridges. at the expense of mass transit. His most controversial thing was canceling the red line. Does anybody remember that? Oh, I guess that was a long time ago. Y'all remember that. Canceling the red line. Now, you may not know what the red line is. Let me remind you. It was a planned $2.9 billion metro rail line that was going to run through Baltimore, for which the state had already acquired the land. They already had it. It was already in motion. Oh no, Larry Hogan wasn't having none of that. He's got a real estate business and he needs to funnel some money. Now, in the process, Hogan gave up $900 million in federal aid from the Obama administration. Right? Now, to their credit, the Baltimore Sun said this: Hogan freed up hundreds of millions of dollars he planned to use to undertake a significant shift in the state's transportation priorities from public transit to road projects. Now, why is this important? Because remember, I said that he has real estate. So if he's redirecting things, how does this benefit him? Maybe you want to know that. Maybe you want to know, how does Hogan benefit from these underhanded, shady dealings? Hogan advanced a number of major state transportation projects that are near properties that his company owns. So he's building up roads and bridges that lead to his properties, right? If he wasn't governor, these things wouldn't have happened. These things would not have benefited him. But, of course, he's governor, and he's doing that because he can. Now, before canceling the red line, he approved construction of an interchange down the road from his parcel of land that his company controlled. So there's some stuff that they were going to build. They had this land, and he's setting things up. Setting himself up, right? That's what a lot of politicians do. Later, he approved millions of dollars in road and sidewalk improvements. Guess where? Wait, I don't even say. Guess where? Near his property, right? You can drive on a whole lot of streets around this state, but if they ain't near his property, they might not have been worked on. He had bought approximately 2 years earlier this location. He's been planning this thing out and setting this thing up. But of course, he has a real estate business. So he's picking and choosing. His brothers, alerting him of things that are going on. He's got people that are working for him and working for the citizens of Maryland. Yes. So you're going to probably say, what law did he break? Maryland law says that an official may not partake in a decision if the official or a qualifying relative, defined as a parent, spouse, child, or sibling, has an economic interest in the matter. You can't even win a prize on a radio station if you have a family member that works there, right? You can't call into your favorite FM station or your favorite podcast and win something if you're related to somebody that works there, right? This is clear and obvious. Everybody knows this. But Larry Hogan, maybe he got some bad advice. Maybe he doesn't care. Maybe he knows that ain't nobody going to do nothing. Democrats ain't going to do nothing. And that's probably why he gets away with this kind of stuff. Right? So, as I said, let me say this again. The Maryland law says that an official may not partake in a decision if the official or a qualifying relative, family member, defined as a parent, spouse, child, or sibling, has an economic interest in the matter and the official or employee knows of that interest. Now, that applies to Larry Hogan like a mug. These decisions certainly seem to implicate the stature. No? I mean, it's clear and obvious. Just tuning in, your man Dominic K in here, the Dominic K Show on Fire Television, on firetelevision.com. It looks to me like there is credible evidence of a violation. But Fox 45, I'm sure they didn't get that. You know, through Vignaraja, they ain't going to talk to him about that. What's the old police chief that Fox 45, brings out every now and then? I can't even remember his name. They ain't going to talk to none of them about that. They ain't got nothing to say about that. This is fine for them. All right. So there's more. There's more to it. Let's bring Larry Hogan on the screen. Right. So Hogan's real estate business has only grown while he's been in office. In 2014, the year before he became governor, his company had ownership in 30 real estate LLCs, according to his financial disclosure forms. All right. So before he got in office, he had 30. Now he has 43. Whoa, wait, slow down, Playboy. Right now he has 43. Hogan's business is currently selling or leasing more than 20 properties throughout the state of Maryland, according to his own website. Public information. He don't care if y'all know. Y'all ain't going to do nothing to him because he's not black. But if he was black, they trotted Sheila Dixon out for some gift cards in Target. You understand what this white guy's getting away with? Nobody's saying nothing. Nobody's saying nothing. I got to tell y'all, right? I got to tell y'all. Now, Hogan has not revealed payments that he has received from specific real estate transactions while in office. He's doing it. He's letting you know, but he ain't telling you what he made. He's getting paid by developers across the state of Maryland. Right? Now, he's in charge of regulating in one way or another these same people. This is much worse than Marilyn Mosby taking out $90,000 from her retirement because of COVID-19. Actually, the audacity, Larry Hogan is one of the people talking trash about Attorney Mosby. Talk trash about Baltimore. Talk trash about Mayor Brandon Scott. He just talks trash about Baltimore in general. And yes, Baltimore has a lot of issues. Baltimore had, just like any other city, Baltimore has seen a rise in crime. Baltimore has seen a rise in murders. Now, it is not exclusive to Baltimore. There are other cities that have a higher murder rate than there is in Baltimore. But let us continue. Let us continue. Hogan's income, Governor Hogan's income, has far exceeded his official yearly government salary, which is roughly $180,000. That's what he makes on paper, right? From 2015 to 2018, his first 3 years as governor, he made a total of roughly $2.4 million, according to his own tax returns. Now, unlike Donald Trump, he does file his taxes, right? So, as governor, he was supposed to make 180, made 2.4 million. No, Fox 45 didn't see the need to do some kind of profile on that. No, it only show us if it's black people doing something that's quote unquote fishy, right? This is obvious. This ain't even fishy. This is obvious. This obviously needs to be looked at, right? This obviously needs to be looked at. But for whatever reason, the folks in the city of Baltimore have been fooled by this wolf in sheep's clothes. Now, he has refused to release his tax returns for the years before he became governor, much like Donald Trump in that regard. Did not want you to have transparency before. So the public had no way to compare his earnings before and after he ascended to Annapolis, which is the capital of Maryland. In addition to that, the tax returns Hogan has released do not include attached statements detailing the sources of his private income. So effectively, he has hidden what entities pay him. I'm saying that this looks interesting. No? The amount of money that Governor Hogan has made while in office is unprecedented. Hogan has made more money as governor than any other governor in the history of this state, and is the only one to have made millions of dollars while in office. Spiro Agnew, now I'm going back in time, it's back in the 70s. They got him on some bribery, funneling some money, and it was a couple $1,000s. We're talking about millions of dollars while he's in office. Right? So, we can go on and on about this. I think you get my point. Fair application of the law. That's what I'm talking about. Jermaine Diamond K, of course. Here on the show, we deliver the biggest political and trending news stories of the day with original reporting and interviews from across the country. Show us fun, show us upbeat, but I also have to expose what's really going on. I'm going to give you politics from an independent perspective. If a Republican is wrong, I'm going to call it out. If a Democrat's wrong, I'm going to call that out too. Join me weekdays, 8 a.m. and 8 p.m. for the Diamond K Show. Visit onfiretelevision.com. New episodes of the show drop Monday through Friday, but I don't want you to miss any of our broadcasts in addition to our 8 a.m. show. We drop content throughout the day as news happens. Hit that notification bell so you get an alert whenever we go live. Diamond K Show is an On Fire Television production. You can get our program on demand on the WRF Radio app, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Stitcher, iHeartRadio, Google Podcasts, of course, youtube.com/DJ Diamond K. You can scroll your timeline, attend a Zoom meeting on mute, do some online shopping while listening to the Diamond K Show. On Fire Television is an advertiser-supported audio and video network. Get breaking news, podcasts, TV shows, covering topics that are important to our culture. You want to support the show? Very easy to do that. Head on over onfiretelevision.com, grab a t-shirt, some other merch, become a sponsor of the show. I'm able to deliver our news and our views on this program because of our listeners and, of course, our sponsors. So much I have on my mind to get to. Let's do this. Take a quick break. We're going to come back after this. Welcome back. You man, Diamond K in here, of course, the Diamond K Show on firetelevision.com. Now, you've been hearing folks talk about it. They've been talking about it, 5G, right? Airlines cancel some flights after the reduced 5G rollout here in the United States. Some flights were canceled today, even after AT&T and Verizon scaled back the rollout of the high-speed wireless service that they say could interfere with aircraft technology that measures altitude. They've been talking about 5G, it seems like forever. So they're going to wait till right before it launches to talk about this? Like, why weren't we hearing about this sooner than now? International carriers that rely heavily on the wide-body Boeing 777 and other Boeing aircraft canceled flights or switched to different planes following the warnings from the Federal Aviation Administration and the Chicago-based plane maker. Of course, this sounds scary. What 5G is affecting the airplanes? Airlines that fly or mostly fly Airbus jets, including Air France and Ireland's planes, seem less affected by the new 5G service. And of course, 5G is saying, look, we've done this around the world. It wasn't no problem. Why y'all giving us grief? Airlines canceled more than 300 flights today, less than 5% of the U.S. total, according to Flight Aware. That was far less disruptive than the Christmas, New Year's Eve travel season, which peaked around 13%. So those are flights that were canceled due to the winter storms and workers that were out for COVID-19. So I don't know what's going to happen with this. They said that it affects something, and I guess we're going to have to work this out. Maybe the towers have to be moved, something. But why did they not talk about this and get this together sooner than the launch day? Is that too much to ask for? Getting something together before the launch day? Of course. Also, the Senate debates this fight to end the voting bill filibuster. One thing that has people frustrated about politics is gridlock. And that's what DC has. Whole bunch of gridlock. Senators face off in a very emotional, raw debate on voting legislation that Democrats and civil rights leaders say is vital to protecting the democracy. But here's the thing, it is going to fail, most certainly, because they don't have the votes. So you may wonder, why are they bringing this to a vote if they don't have the votes? And here's the reason. They want to know where folks stand. It has been often talked about that Joe Manchin and Kyrsten Sinema don't support the president's agenda, which includes this voting rights. They say they support it, but they don't support it really, right? It needs to be bipartisan, which is just another way of just, pulling a tail. They don't really want to do it. And so they're trying to get rid of the filibuster and work around this. They'll work around it for other stuff, but not for voting rights. Because Sinema and Manchin really are Republicans. They're just wearing a Democrats outfit, but they're really Republicans. So they're not going to do anything to help the president. Now, Democrats, had they had a larger majority, they could have got stuff done without Sinema and Manchin, but that's not the case. So if Manchin and Sinema have been so vocal that they ain't with this voting rights stuff, they don't care about the president's agenda, President Biden's agenda, why are they taking this to the floor? You may ask. Why do they want to take this to a vote? That's because many civil rights and voting activists feel that there are more folks that are against voting rights, but we just don't know. So they want to take this to a vote to see where folks stand. Black people are going to vote regardless. Many people stood in line to vote for President Obama, long lines too. If you're excited about a candidate or you accept how important your vote is, it's not going to matter what obstacles they put in front of you. You're going to get out and you're going to vote because your vote is important. Now, there's a lot of foolishness going on. There's a lot of arguing going on. There's a lot of deception happening with vote. This election was stolen. It wasn't stolen. The big lie, the little lie, all that kind of stuff. But it is very important. It is very important who you vote for. And the thing is that the people who are trying to take away your vote, they don't really want you to vote. They want to make it so difficult and so complicated or just so frustrating that you don't go and vote. But you have to vote. You need to vote. You must vote. Now, despite this late push, President Biden has been unable to persuade Kyrsten Sinema or Joe Manchin to do anything. He's the president. He looks weak. He just looks weak. I mean, he's weak. Now, tomorrow is his 1 year in office. Him and Kamala Harris. That's what we're going to talk about tomorrow. 1 year into the Biden administration. Are we better off? Do you feel better? Are you worse? What kind of job do you think Joe Biden has done after 1 year? We're going to talk about that tomorrow on the Diamond K Show. I am always glad to come here and chop it up with folks. Of course, you can hit me up on social media. I love to go back and forth with folks. Join me as I unpack breaking news and issues affecting Americans weekdays, 8 a.m., 8 p.m. It's the Diamond K Show, Apple Podcasts, onfiretelevision.com, anywhere you get your shows. Like, subscribe, share. See you guys tomorrow.